Okay, so I'm
Hello.
gonna get going then.
Yes, and let's just let folks know if you really want to, you can also use the Zoom chat at the bottom of your screen, and I'll try to keep an eye on that for Melinda as she's going. Thanks, Melinda.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with this screen. So today I'm going to be talking about collaborating using Microsoft Teams. And let me stop my slideshow. There we go. And I just want to, this is the ACE framework that the CoLab had talked to you in other workshops. And I just wanted to highlight the categories that actually pertain to teams. And as I go along, I will highlight as I'm talking these different practices that will work with teams, okay? So let me go to Teams. Where's my Teams? Yeah, I can't find my Teams. No. Okay, so to get into Teams, what I'm going to be focusing on is mostly students, talking about how faculty will be using this for students. And I want you to know that Microsoft Teams is now the leading enterprise collaboration tool. It actually surpassed Slack back in 2019. And our students will actually benefit from experiencing this tool, as many will likely use it or something similar in their careers. Over time, as we know with all kinds of software, functionality among the competitive platforms will become similar. You will notice that we actually can do meetings in Teams just like you can with Zoom. So as I'm talking about similarities, they're starting to overlap more and more. And the value of this time is for students to become familiar with a collaborative platform so that when they go out into the workforce, they will have that experience. Okay, so Teams, you can get Teams either through the web. So when you log on to My Plymouth and you go into what we refer to as the Office 365 waffle, Teams is up there. It's the purple one up at the top. You can get that way, or you can upload the application onto your desktop, onto your computer. They are a little bit different, but for the most part, they have the same options. But you might just see little tweaks if you go between the two. Now, as you can see, I've actually come in, and on the left-hand side, we have a number. This is our main menu. You have activity, chat, teams, assignments, and so on and so forth.
Okay, just checking. So Melinda, we are still seeing your PowerPoint.
Oh, you are?
It may be how you shared your screen originally.
Okay. Thank you for telling me that.
And I think if you just reshare with what you want, it'll work out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let me know that. Here we are. So we're in Teams, and this is the main menu on the left-hand side. And I'm actually in the Teams section. Now for this Teams section, you can actually have it displayed one of two ways. You can have it so it's a list like this. This is what I prefer. Or you can do it in a grid, which would show you different blocks for each team. What I'm actually going to do is I have a Teams workshop one-on-one, and I'm going to use that just to show you how as I talk through. So I'm in general right now. When you're in your Teams, every team that you create always creates a general channel. And right now, what it's showing is I'm in the posts. And this is the way that you would collaborate with any team members that you are interested in having as part of your team. So for example, with the Slipper workshop, we've been collaborating using a Teams team site. So to create a team, you can actually click down the bottom to create a team or to join a team. And so if I click this, this shows you any public teams that I'd like to join. If you happen to know a team name, you can actually search for it, or you can create a team. So those are two options for being part of a team. Now, I do want to let you know that when you create your team, you can create it as either public or private. And the private is you would only have people who are members, specific members. If you make it public, anybody can join. They can ask to be joined to your team. So for example, my Teams Workshop 101, this actually has only specific members. This was a workshop I did previously, and I had a couple of people that were in my workshop, and so they are members of this particular teams. Now, each team can have multiple channels. So you automatically have general when you create a team. And what a channel is think of it as topics. So under this Teams Workshop 101, I have the general, but I also added a topic of activities, and I also added testing a new channel. Now, if you notice my testing a new channel, I have a little lock here because you can actually make your channel either public to everybody that's part of that team, or if you only want a subset from that team membership to have access to a specific channel, you can only give it to a few people. So that's why it has the lock, because that is actually a private channel. As far as the posts, you can talk to anybody who has activity to that particular channel. So when I come down to testing a new channel, the only people I would talk to is those who are the members of that channel. So when I go up to my posts, this is actually a conversation. So you can start a new conversation, or you can reply to an existing conversation if there's been one already occurring. Now, when you are in a conversation, you want to make sure that if you're responding to somebody in that conversation, that you use the reply and you don't start a new conversation, because you want that whole conversation to be in the exact same link. Now, one thing I do want to let you know is by using posts, this is actually going to, from using the AC framework, it's going to, for the different practices, you can use student design and choice with teams, technology adoption driven by pedagogy, portal-based use of internet. And even though this isn't directly the internet, it's the intranet, so it's everybody within PSU. And then support instructional design, where you can talk to your instructional designer, or you can make up a team of any coworkers that you have. So when you're using the conversation, which is now called post, down the bottom you have a number of different icons, and you may, from using other types of applications like Facebook, you may recognize these. So you've got where you would actually format, you can attach a file, and the file actually is attached right into your conversation. Plus it gets stored in a file section, which I'll show you in a minute. You can always put emojis, use emojis. There are also stickers. Now, what I love about this is if you're working with students and you're in a conversation and you want to actually see them face to face like Zoom, you can actually start a meeting right away. And what you can do is meet right now, or you can schedule it. And it works just like Zoom. You can do recording. You can, just a minute. You can do recording. You can schedule it for a particular time. You can see your people. The grid only shows the top 4. They are actually working on expanding that. But you can use it just like Zoom. Down here, you have streaming. So if you do record a meeting, this is how you can stream that recording, or you can bring in other videos. There is a way of praising people within your team in your conversations. And then there's, in this case, this is the weather app that's showing up. And then you've got other apps that you can always bring up by clicking the 3 dots. And there's actually more apps, but you can explore that on your own. Okay. Now, once you're in a conversation, when you receive something, there are actually, let me go up to this one. You see, I need to move all the people. When you're in a conversation, up in the upper right-hand corner, you actually have all emojis that you can use. But if you actually click on those 3 dots, there are other things that you can do. But the thing I want to point out as far as going back to the ACE framework is we have translate. So if it's in English and somebody speaks a different language, they can translate it to a different language. So if you have international students and they're having difficulty understanding, this is a great thing to use. And so this really comes out with the UDL baseline and the digital divide amelioration, and also immersive reader. What it does, it will speak to the person. So that's also great. All right, that is in a nutshell our posts. Now remember how I said that, I've got to move this again. Everybody's in my way. Come on, move. I move this over here. I need to get it out of my way so I don't see anybody. As I said that you could attach a file. Well, not only will that be in your conversation, but it actually does go up into the files and you would see the file here. And so anybody could come in, they could download it, they could upload it. As long as they're part of Teams, they can open it in SharePoint, because to let you know that when you create a team, you actually create a team site, a SharePoint team site. So in the background, you actually have a team site. Okay. One thing is for your files, you can actually edit them right online, or you can download it to your local application. Another fun thing is you can actually create tabs. And up here I have the White Mountain, I have YouTube of the office. And what this is if you have students and you want them to look at a particular content related to the topic that you're talking about, you can bring in websites and make it a tab up the top. Or you can bring in YouTube videos. And I'm going to show you really fast how easy that is. So when you click on the plus sign, these are all the different things that you can bring in. You can bring in the website, you can stream things, you can do SharePoint, PowerPoint, and then go down here and there's all different types of, there's Quizly. I'm trying to remember some of the other things as we go along. I don't know if you recognize these different apps, but you can actually bring these in and work with your students on it. Quizlets, that's what I was thinking. So that's your tabs. And so if I come back to post, let me see, what else do I want to talk about? So that is basically your Teams area. If for the other things in the main menu, because I'm trying to go through this fairly fast. We have activity, and that just shows your activity that has been going on. For example, Robin happened to mention something in the slipper camp leadership today. So that's showing up. We have chat. Chat is just like any other chat that you've used. You can create a new chat by going up here, and you can put the person in that you want. It can be anybody in PSU. So this way your students can actually talk to people outside of their team if they wanted to, share information. I have Erica that I talk to a lot because we're both in the same department. And the good thing about this is if you're you have a group of people, notice how I have Brett, Erica, and Ryan. And I wanted to actually speak to somebody and have them mentioned. So I'm going to say @Erica. And then when I put, how are you? When I send that, she's actually going to get notification up in not only her activity, but the message is actually going to have a little red mark on the side to say you were mentioned in this. The same happens with conversations when you're doing posts. If you do the @ and you put somebody in there, I'm going to just go back and do that down here. Let's see. So if I do @Erica, so by putting E in, I get everybody who begins. So look at Elizabeth is there, and Erica is who I want, and then I can continue and chat. So that way they know they've been mentioned in a conversation or in a chat so that they need to look at that. So that's really, really great. The other thing with chat, it is the same as our posts, our conversations. You have the icons down below, and you also have the icons up above that you can actually use. One other thing I do want to show you is, as far as the format, when you're starting a conversation, oh, I'm in chat right now. Chat, you can't do it. But when you're in Teams and you start a conversation, you can actually add a subject at that point in time. That's the only time that you can do that. So that makes it so it's easier for people to know what your topic actually is. Let's see. So then we also have assignments. We don't use assignments. That's really for K through 12. Calendar is actually if you want to schedule a meeting. Once again, the calendar is brought from your Microsoft calendar. So you have all your information here, and you can meet now or you can schedule a meeting. So that is great, and it'll put it on your Office 365. You can actually call somebody. So by clicking here, or even when you're in chat. So where I'm with Erica right now, I'm talking to Erica, we actually have the phone up here, and I can click on that, and I'm going to hang up fairly fast, so she's going to see that she gets called, but then I'm going to hang up. Actually, why don't I do it to Robin, because I think I've got Robin. So if I go up here, Robin DeRosa, here's our chat. This is great. Minimize. Okay, gonna start chatting with you. Hi, Robin. And then I've got to move you people again. Is she showing? You added at least one more person to your chat. Nope, I don't need anybody else. Minimize that. Let's go up here. Where's my, I think because of my Zoom, my chat's not showing. Let me go back. And so if I call Robin, that's what it sounds like. Robin, you don't have to answer. I'm just going to hang up on you. And it sounds like a bell that's ringing. All righty.
If I had actually answered that, this would have gotten really complicated on my screen.
It would have gotten really cool. All right, so you have also, now if you don't have everything listed like I have on your teams, all you need to do is hit these 3 buttons here and it will expand it, because I also have files, which is going to show me my files that I have in all my teams. And then the button down here is going to show other apps that you can actually use. The Who app is cool. That's our org chart. And so it's going to show who I work for and who works with these people. So it's always a neat application to use. But yeah, you can just play around with this. One other thing that would be good for students is the OneNote. So if they're in a Teams and they want to add a note, let me see. I thought I added notes earlier, but maybe not. You can just add a OneNote here and the students can actually take notes, and it does it by day, so it keeps track. It's really a cool feature. One thing I do want to let you know is that you can put this on your phone, but there are 2 things that don't work on the phone at this moment, and that is actually looking at files you can't look at through your chat, and you can't do apps. So I just want to let you know that, because I know students like to do phones, but they can chat with you or they can be part of the conversation and look at all your tabs. Once you record a meeting or a class session, you can then share that out via stream. And what it will do is once you stop the recording of your class, it will go out to your email and then you can distribute it. Up the top here, we have a search field. And what's great about this is you can either do a \, which would show you all kinds of different features that you can use. For example, we have available away busy, and that's actually changing. See up here, my little profile picture, and right now it's red for busy. Well, if I changed it to away by clicking that, it changes to away. And then I can go back up here and type my / again and say that I'm busy, and it goes back to red. So you can actually change your status so people know what your status is. The other thing that you can do is if you do an @ you can bring in all kinds of apps also. And that's how the weather got in. So that's another option that you can look at. But the search is basically a search. You can look for anybody. If I put Erica, did I spell it right? Where am I? Erica. I have to spell her name right. It comes up, I can put Erica, and it's going to show me everything that in my activity, everything that, okay, let's try this again. Erica didn't work this time. And here it's showing me her chat because I'm in chats. If I was in Teams, it would show me, here, let's pick her again. Filter by name, Erica. Keep spelling her name wrong. And so it's going to show me anytime Erica was included. Let's see what else. So those are shortcuts for the fields. Your personal setting is up here where either your face or your name is. And this is where you can, another place where you can change your status. You can set up your settings. There are shortcuts. You can also, in the settings, this is where you can set up your notifications. This is also in the general where you can decide whether you want a grid or a list. Permissions, you can set up how you want calls. So if you're busy and somebody calls you, whether it goes to voicemail or not. So there's all kinds of great options that you can do with that. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? I think that's basically going over the highlights of Teams.
If you can, well, you can keep sharing your screen because people may have questions that you want to show us. But we have Ben on the line, who is a Collab student affiliate, and he's been tracking some of the questions in chat.
Okay.
Ben, are you able to unmute and ask a couple of your questions in the queue?
Yep. So I've got a bunch of just straight yes/no questions. Can students collaborate with each other using PSU Teams?
Yes.
Are there any sync issues between the web and the app?
That's a good question. I don't think we have any issues because when I created the web, it came right out. And for my Teams, I didn't have any issues with syncing, and it was almost instantaneous. So we're linked out to it. So if anything changes, you should get the update.
Cool. Will Office 365 push an appointment to Teams?
That's a good question. Because of when you go in the calendar, it actually is your Office 365. So it's not really pushing it. It's just looking at the same calendar, if you understand what I'm saying. It's really looking at your Office 365.
Cool.
Does that answer that, I hope?
Yeah. Can you add a Moodle tab?
At this moment, there is that feature that you actually can integrate them. At this time, because we have so much going on, that's being put on the back burner, but down in the future, that will be something that will be looked at.
Can you connect Hypothesis to Teams so students can work on primary source documents here?
So what do they want to do? They want to put...
No, they cannot connect Hypothesis in Microsoft Teams.
Oh, Jason, thank you for that answer.
That's the one I'm looking. Is there an easy way to pull students from your class into Teams?
Yes, it is. Because you actually, when you create Teams, you can pull it from your Office 365. All you need to do, so let me just show you when I create a Teams, just to give you a... So when you give it a team name, I'm testing again, making it private. You can actually, if you have a template, you can use an existing team template, or you can use a group that you're using. You can also skip this, and when we go into here, you can type the students' names. And so as long as they're PSU students, let me see. David Strong is not a student, but he's somebody within the PSU. And so it will bring it up and you can just keep plopping in the names. Does that answer that? The other thing is you can also skip here. You don't have to add everybody right at the beginning. You can skip. And then up here next to your group, your channel, you can actually manage your channel. Sorry, I want to do my teams. You can actually add members to your team up here, which is the same thing, you type their name. Does that answer the question, I hope?
I believe so. Do some faculty use both Moodle and Teams with classes, or would that just be too much? They
actually do both. Because they're putting a lot of their assignments and classwork into Moodle. So we want to still use Moodle in that aspect, where Teams is a great way of collaborating for the students together. So when you do break out in groups, because I know you do that in Moodle, you can actually set up different channels with the different groups so those students can collaborate, and you can actually, as a faculty member, be watching how their collaboration is going.
Can I jump in on that question real fast?
Sure, Moodle expert.
One of the advantages of using Teams also, you can do it instead of forums, particularly. You can create channels, create different channels that would be the equivalent of forums if you wanted to. You can use it as a hallway discussion area. We always try, instructors try to put that hallway discussion forum for, general questions. I need help with something. Teams is a great solution for that because it's also an instantaneous place where they can have a conversation, and then they can have side conversations away from that, away from the forum if they want to, without having to track down other people's email address or exchange phone numbers or things like that. So really it's a place that's a really easy way to make connections between your students, you and your students between each other.
Right. Wonderfully said, Jason.
And then Melinda, I have one question on the team when you're inviting people or when you're trying to invite people.
Yep.
Can you click on the 3 dots again for that Teams channel? They get the link to the team. Can you invite people to the team with that link?
You can. It will actually, and that way, that's their way of joining.
So instead of inputting the names individually, you can send out that link in an email to your students.
Yep, that's another way of doing it. Yep, thank you. There's so many different, and I'm just highlighting, so.
And now might be a good time. We still have some time left. So if you have another question, because I know the chat's been moving fast and lots of stuff is going on, some things have been answered. So you can go, feel free. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question on the mic? Just unmute yourself.
This is Kathy. I've been getting confused about when you create a team, how do you know which type of team to pick? I've read the knowledge base about that. I've looked at Microsoft's advice and I still don't get it.
Okay. They're basically the same. You're not going to do the class one because that has to do with assignments and things, but professional learning. And when you click on it, it actually comes up and lets you know.
Can I stop you there though?
Yep.
I mean, if we're talking about using this with students and our classes, why wouldn't we do the class one?
Because that really goes into assignments and that uses the assignments section. What you can, by using the, so if we go into this is for teachers that are going to actually give them assignments on and quizzes on Teams, but you're going to be using Moodle for that. So that's why we wouldn't use that. But by using the professional learning community, the staff, or you can use the other. And what it is, it's so educators and students can talk to each other. It's basically the same. There's not a lot of difference except with the classroom.
So Melinda, can you add somebody who is an external collaborator, somebody who's outside of PSU?
Unfortunately, no. This is an intranet. So it's anybody who's in part of PSU.
So not even with that link, right? Even if you give them the link, they cannot come in.
Right. They need to have a PSU login.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Do we have any way to welcome guests if we contact IT?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I could look that up. Is this Whitney, correct?
Yes, that's right.
I can look into that to see if there is a way and get back to you.
Thank you.
This is Kate. I had asked one of the questions earlier about the integration between Moodle and Teams. So I'm just kind of confused how, obviously my class lives in Moodle, but if I wanted to direct students to Teams, do you put a link on Moodle? How would I integrate those two in an easy way?
Well, that's where you could put the link to join the team in Moodle, and they could click on that, and that would take them into the teams that you've set up.
Can I just suggest, because just like all the tools we have, there are a million different ways to use them. And those of you who are asking, can't I just replace Moodle with Teams? I mean, you can actually. We just want to be careful institutionally about like big shifts of faculty doing big things. But the answer is yes. But one thing you might think about is that, in my opinion, Teams is much better than Moodle for conversational talking, for relationship building, for project management, for group work, for discussion. All of that kind of stuff works really nicely in Teams because of the ability to tag, because of the flow of conversation and the way things are visually laid out. So a lot of people who are using Teams are using it as the primary mode of communication with students, but you may still use Moodle for your archive of files, for your learning materials, for your syllabus storage. So, you know, in some ways it might be hard that you have these two things, but you can also on your Moodle page write a pretty picture like, come chat here, and make that a hot link to your team, and then they sort of flow in. So Moodle can still be your landing base if you want it to be. But we use Moodle really effectively with our students for project management in the collab. And we used to use Moodle for a lot more of that stuff. And we find Teams to be a lot faster and more connective.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Robin's saying. This is Jason Ninos. Yeah, Teams is great for the communication aspect. The collecting of assignments, the grading, the gradebook, that's really better for the LMS, which is Moodle. That's not really what Teams is built for. And they're trying to, you know, Microsoft is trying to build those things in to capture that part of the market. But really, you know, when you want your students to collaborate and do group work, you make a team, you make a team for them in Microsoft, or a channel for them in Microsoft Teams, which makes it easier for them to real-time edit documents because they can do that right in Teams and things like that, as opposed to trying to work in group discussion forums in Moodle, which can be cumbersome and clunky in order to organize.
Did that answer your question, Kate? I think it was Kate who had asked that.
Yeah, I think it does. Thank you.
What is the ability to integrate Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram into Teams?
Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's a good question. I haven't played with all the apps. There may be apps for that out there. I'd have to research that. Do we know who asked that question?
Ben, who was the question asker on that? Do you know offhand?
Carrie Reynolds says it was her.
It was Carrie.
I mean, one thing you can do, even if there isn't like a widget or an app that makes that happen in there, is like Hannah in our team often takes websites and puts them in the tabs up top. So when you're looking at the top, you have different things that stay there. For example, in our CPLC team, our syllabus is a website, and so she's put that frozen to the top of our team page. So anything that has a URL that's a website, like, for example, a Facebook group or something, you could drop a link there. Whether there's other fancier ways, I'm not sure.
How have students responded to the use of Teams?
I don't know how many students have used it. I know in IT, we use it a lot. The help desk, they use it communicating back and forth because we have 30 students, student workers. As far as out, I think it's still something new as far as I know.
I feel like this is a good
I
question.
don't know if,
Yeah, Ben, why don't you answer that?
I was going to say, Ben, you just asked that question. So I'm going to invite Ben Pike from the collab to talk about his experience using Teams. Either, I don't know if you just use it with us, Ben, or more, but feel free to tell us what you think.
Okay. So as a student, I've never used it in a studently capacity. I've only ever used it at jobs that I've worked at the university. And in all of those, I've more or less enjoyed it. Obviously, there are drawbacks and obviously there are advantages to it. And it seems to integrate well into my email, which is nice. So I only have a few emails to worry about. I've never used it as a student per se, though.
Can I jump in here? At my previous institution, Arizona State, we started integrating Slack into our learning management system, which is a Teams competitor. It has a lot of the same things. And we were just starting to do it when I left, but we were getting positive responses with students for that type of communication, especially in the online environment, just because it was a real-time communication feature as opposed to trying to communicate through discussion boards or things like that.
I will say that in my previous institution, I used Teams for several years, and not Teams, but Slack for several years in classes I taught, which it's very similar to Teams. There's a lot that students like about it. And I'll just put a little plug here that the next session that Hannah and I are doing is really to try and unpack a lot of the concerns and questions people have about how do you pick where to do, what tool to use, how do you, not overwhelm your students, what sort of instruction do students need. So stick around if that's something you want to talk about more.
I've got two questions here about immersive thing. One is, what platform is the immersive video in? So what format of video? Doesn't need to be buffer, blah, blah, blah. And what is the immersive reader?
Let me get this out. Okay, so immersive reader, if we go in. So here we have it. Reading preferences, you can set it up. And I haven't used it a lot. Oh, I've got you in the wrong place. Come on, sorry. And
Melinda Barnsley at Monday, May 11th, 2020, 4:17 p.m. Added a new tab at the top of this channel. Here's a link. File, the %20 office, %20 cast, %20 reunites, %22%.
okay, so that was exciting. Does that answer that question for whoever asked that?
I hope it does, because I know you're all sad to hear this, but that's all the time we have for Teams. But there's a lucky thing that I can say is that Teams does not go away just because we go away now. So we have drop-in hours in the collab tomorrow, 8:30 to 5. Melinda will be around for some of those. We also have them on Friday. So pop in, and also if Melinda's not there right at the time you come, we can ping her so that she can give you next level advice on Teams. Thank you, Melinda, so much. I'm going to stop recording on this session.